everyone, Daria's here, and I'm happy to welcome the Web3 content creator and hackathon hero you may know under the nickname Dappadan. Today, we're gonna discuss the life hacks and tricks of the blockchain hackathons. Dan has extensive experience in hacking, so his impressions and advice may be valuable for every hackathon newbie. Dan, I'm glad you joined me in this conversation that I named Code to Survive. Share, please, a bit about your background and why you're interested in Web3 and everything related.
Yeah, thanks. Happy to be here. Happy to help people survive through code. I hope no one's life is threatened and needs to code, but if they do, this will be a great tip for that. But if you're looking to thrive as a code, hopefully I can give you some tips as well. A little background about me. Before getting into this world of crypto, Web3, all of these things, I worked primarily in fintech, building out back-end payment systems. So it was kind of a natural conclusion, but I was actually very much crypto skeptic in terms of, I thought this was just a way for people to get really rich, or you're like a quant or really smart. None of these things, not really smart or really rich. But I thought, hey, let me go ahead and check this out because I heard about these things called smart contracts that you can actually build programs to blockchain. And it basically, long story short, after discovering that, and I think we'll talk more about developer DAO. I've just been kind of loving it ever since. And like you had introduced myself, I've been doing a lot of content creation because largely I feel like that's kind of the best place I can give value to the community, if you will, rather than just trying to be like, the best developer in the world.
Great. So, what are you doing at Developer DAO and what kind of content do you create?
Yeah, so the intro to Developer DAO, it's kind of gone through a few, I would say, iterations through time, as this whole industry has changed quite a bit. But if I had to tell someone on the street, because I'm talking to people on the street about Developer DAO all the time, is that it's like basically the home of developers in Web3. And what I mean by that is, the primary goal, if you go to like developerdao.org, I think this website, it says, we're trying to onboard the next generation of developers per se. And that's always been its goal. We have had different activities in the past. When I joined, first it was just a Discord with a bunch of developers, kind of confused on what to do, right? And then, we had conferences, and now we do some regular activities just around general education. Whether that's, we have this Dev and Tell, where we invite protocols to come and basically do a show and tell, but also not just shill things, but show how things work, answer tough questions from the audience if need be, as well as we've been doing quite a lot of academy, what we call the Developer DAO Academy, where we actually do full-fledged courses for different protocols. So the end goal really has always been to be a home for developers. Like it's my first home. When I was looking and I was like, okay, I'm a developer and I want to get into this space. Where do I go? And then I just happened to hear a podcast about this Developer DAO thing. And it just naturally makes sense, right? Developer is in the name. So it's a good safe haven for that. And it helps a lot of people. There's a lot of people that have had amazing careers now in this industry. And it all started through the DAO. You can probably trace back to your favorite Web3 person, and they probably has had some connection with Developer DAO in some type of way. So yeah, really proud to be a part of it. And also see it kind of evolve and mature as it's gone.
Do you have any secret recipe for cooking great content for devs?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a secret recipe, I can't tell you. So
maybe not secret, but something special.
Yeah, there's no secrets. I think it's a lot about time and focus, to be honest. So my main focus now is primarily driven by a few things. There's tons of kind of technical or developer content that you can make out there, and I think originally, like let's say 2 years ago, I was very happy to do content that was doing kind of like introduction stuff, like, here's a concept in this space, let me introduce you to it, let me try to explain it like I'm 5, kind of thing like that, which I think is really valuable, especially when we're talking about trying to onboard a amount of developers that are out there. But there's a few kind of things that kind of changed my focus, and I think that's one of the main ways to make great content is to be very focused on who's your audience. And one of them was looking at, I think it's called Electric Capital. They had this like survey, developer survey out there. And I can't, like, don't quote me on these numbers. You can kind of look them up if yourself, but they had one. It was basically showing a huge gap of like the years of experience, and there was like a good amount of people that were like less than 1 year experience as a developer in the industry, and then there's this huge gap of people that kind of left after that first year, and then like 3 to 5, right? And for me, I think my audience and what I'm trying to focus on really is that those people leaving after the 1 year. There's a lot of great content creators and great content out there for people who is the first 6 months, first 9 months of being here, and I'm happy to point those people out. But I'm trying to make content for the people who've got some of the basics down, but really want to build something interesting, valuable, and kind of productive. And I try to do that in somewhat of an entertaining and fun way, because I think that's a great way to onboard people, right? If they feel like people are having fun here and they're not just like super serious, we're trying to solve the internet's major problems and all of this stuff, I think people generally stick around. So that's kind of like my secret, is just to have a good focus on audience. And I from data and also from experience, like I started doing this because someone asked me to make like an intro to blockchain course, like it was in January. And literally I could do that with my eyes closed in most cases, because I've just done it so many times in the past with other people, other clients, customers, and things like that. But for some reason, I just couldn't type a single word. I just like froze. I was like, and I don't know why. What is going on? And it's just because like I think I've just, from myself personally, have moved on from that type of content, and I want to have fun and build on the tools that we have out there, because I think the industry has changed quite a bit in terms of what developer tools are out there and what you can do, and I want to show people how to do that more and more.
So let's talk about hackathons. How many hackathons did you participate in?
So I've been doing hackathons or competitive programming since I was I think about 12 or 13, and I'm not 12 or 13 anymore. So I'll leave it at that. Quite a lot. I don't even have a number. In Web3, it's actually probably 8 to 10, I guess I would say. And I've only recently kind of really been focusing on like building out bigger applications than just like, I'm just here to participate and just gotta see what the vibes are. But yeah, it's been interesting because I think Web3 is such a hackathon focused industry, I guess. So to try to make that valuable for other people and also for myself should be very much a priority for everyone, I think.
What did you learn from the first hackathon?
Well, my very first one, I'll tell you the story. So, like I said, I think it was like 12 or 13 at the time, and it was a competitive programming through basically a computer science course that I was taking, but through a club. This is going to be the most nerdiest story you're going to ever get on your. I don't know if this is a show or not, but because I was in a computer science club at 12. So obviously mega popular in high school, all the girls wanted me kind of guy. But basically what we had was a state competition with all the other computer science clubs in my state. So I grew up in the US, and basically it was two parts. One was you had to do kind of a theory part where it was a kind of a written test almost about this is in Java, so it's kind of general coding concepts as well as Java coding concepts. Things that you would probably get in your maybe first 2 years in computer science in university, but again, this is like high school. And then you had to kind of, once you complete the test, so there was no like, it was like a time cutoff, but you can finish it as soon as possible. So once you did that, you like ran to your computer, and again, it wasn't like an athletic event, but you ran to your computer, and then you started coding. Then you like kind of open your laptop, or I think this was like desktops, and then, hey, here's a prompt. And I remember it was like calculating, building an interest rate calculator, and then calculating that over time on this, like, I think a housing pricing or something like that, if I remember correctly. And they had to do that, and then that was the kind of hackathon, right? And it was like all within, I think it was like 3 hours or something crazy like that. And what I learned, so the test was hard. The program was even harder. But what I was interesting about it was, and then as a clown that I am, I guess, in the comments of my application, I put in the comments you can write, I just wrote like, this program is really hard or something like that. I don't know, something. And then at the end of the hackathon, and then there's judges that look at your code and all of that, and then they give it back to you because again, it's like an educational thing. The judge actually wrote like, yeah, I agree. This is really hard. And I think this is what I learned was that you're doing difficult things, especially even in hackathons, and you're probably going to be the hardest judge on yourself no matter what. So, hackathons usually end with you presenting to a judge or a judge seeing your code or whatever. And you might think, oh, wow, this wasn't that great. This like I can improve in this and that. But for a judge who hasn't, done all that struggle to get there, and then they see your end result, they're probably going to be way more impressed because they also like most judges, I think, in this industry at least have done one or two hackathons, but some of them haven't, right? And so then when they see something that's like, wow, it's a working application or somewhat working application, and you just did that in like 2 days, wow, like just wow at that, and then like now it does something cool. So yeah, best lesson to learn is that you're probably going to be the harshest judge out of every hackathon, and you should be kind of open with that.
How important is it to have an idea before a hackathon?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you should probably know what you want to build. Whether that like you shouldn't be like sold to it too much, but it's really fun if you have some plan. Like at least what I think, you have some sort of plan or idea that you want to build beforehand, because then you get to the hackathon, and this is really a personal thing for me, but you get to the hackathon and it's just like execute time. It's just go and do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of rewarding about hackathons is like, even at the end of the day, again, like you might not be like, wow, this is the most amazing, most useful application that is going to onboard the next billion users or whatever. But at least you had an idea and that you executed on it, and that's like super rewarding. And no matter if you got any win any prizes or anything like that, and you only get that when you have some sort of plan ahead of time. And I think it's kind of tricky if you kind of planning during that, and then like, well, you kind of then if you don't finish or you're not impressed, you just kind of like, oh well, I kind of made up my idea anyway, so. And then I don't know, it's not that rewarding. Maybe that's at least in my opinion, right? Like you just kind of have excuses for yourself that I didn't really care, right? So move on, kind of thing. Where if you do execute, you have a plan and you execute it on it in some type of way, like an idea, and like, wow, I built something that I wanted to see in the world, or at least for that weekend. It's super rewarding. So yeah, I say it's important if you want to get something out of it outside of just money.
So to continue this topic, I want to ask you about two different strategies of hackathon participants. Some of them come up with an idea that will definitely win a bounty from sponsors. So they learn sponsors and try to build something that fits sponsors' bounties.
Yeah.
And other guys use the hackathon to get the feedback about their project from mentors, and they use the hackathon like a brainstorming room to get more feedback. Which strategy is closer to you, or maybe which strategy is more successful in the hackathons?
I think they're both successful. Again, like I said, especially for the feedback, is like even at some of these hackathons, you'll get people who are building in this industry, have much experience, much network, much connections, and if you're presenting someone and they give you great feedback, it's like super uplifting. And even if they recommend you reach out to someone or you apply for a grant, that's huge, right? That's invaluable than if you were just like posting on social media and hoping people notice you, kind of thing. For me personally, I'm very much a bounty focused person. And I think it's largely because I think it's rewarding for me, not just from a financial perspective, obviously, but because then I have some sort of validation that I built something that's impressive for other people. And I know I can build things, and that's just kind of at the stage of where I'm at in my developer journey. Like I know, like it's not just about getting something done, but like how do other people perceive it? And I think that's really valuable when you're talking about learning a skill, which I think one of the hackathon skills is to build things that people would use or people find useful. And I think the hackathon bounty or winning a bounty is some level of validation of that. Sometimes it's maybe shamefully, but you might be like, one of the 3 projects that submitted the bounty. So you're just kind of like default going to get something. But in most cases, right, especially when you present to judge and, there's, some sort of competition, right, that it's just nice nice to see that. Okay, well, this person thought there was some value in that they're going to give some sort of financial reward to it, and it's a good motivation, of course.
Memes projects versus projects that change the world. Which ones get more bounty and attention from the jury?
God, I wish I knew. Like, let me say this. So meme projects are really good if they are really relevant to the event. So I noticed this time and time again. Like, if there's like ETHGlobal always have these wristbands, for example, in most cases or in most events, or even other events that have these like IDs or something like that, and they're easily not hackable, but you can use that information. And I see a lot of projects that they use that, and I find that the ones that try to do something incredibly useful for them have some success sometimes. Like, oh yeah, now this is like networking, with NFCs or whatever. But the ones that make a meme out of those things do well, because it's like, oh yeah, we can all participate. So it's like, if you do a meme project, I think it should just be very relevant to either zeitgeist or what the talk of the town kind of thing, or to that specific event, whether it's like connected to another event, like we have like Devconnect in Istanbul sometimes things. I think that's really great. That's the most important thing to look at. Yeah, so I think Change the World projects are really successful. I try to do those type of focus either because why not? It tells a great story, which I think is another big part of winning hackathons or winning bounties to judges. Is like, oh, here's a larger goal in mind than just like, oh, it's social. It's fun. I go off and on in those type of things, but if I were to pick one, I would always pick like not a world changing, but something useful outside of just crypto, I would say.
The important question: how to find the team? Can you give any advice for newbies?
So I'd probably be the worst person to give advice on this, because traditionally I hack alone, largely because, and this is my only philosophy on that. So here's one of the things I would recommend for newbies: don't hack alone. That's it. I try to, because people ask me that sometimes and they think like I'm kind of crazy to do this, but I would say like this: if hackathons were a sport, which is definitely not I guess it's some physical activity in there, but let's say if it was an Olympic sport, because it's very relevant to now. You could do it. It would have two different competitions. It would have one that's kind of like the what is it, like the baton racing? So like people are running and then they pass like the baton to the stick. That would be one competition hackathon, and then the other one would be just like weird Iron Man single racing through obstacle courses, tires, and all fire and all that. I choose that one. They're both the same. They both end at the same finish line, but they're just different ways to do it. And I just find that, for me, fun and challenging in terms of that. But there's nothing disrespectful or like less if you do the other race, which is you working as a team getting to the finish line. So I would say to anyone newbies looking for a team, it's just like, be honest with the skills that you have, and know that what the hackathon does is increase your skills. So even if you feel like, oh, I'm not that great at TypeScript, or I'm not great at smart contract development, you will probably upskill yourself in that weekend. So you should probably think about who you're going to be after the hackathon, and that's who you are now, basically. So if you say, oh, I'm just a junior Solidity developer or something, I'm just getting started, by the hackathon done, you're going to have something deployed. So why don't you just say in your head, I'm a Solidity developer who's deployed some things, basically, because that experience is going to be, you're going to speed run through that experience of the hackathon. So there's no reason to hold on to where you are now.
The most frequent mistakes of hackathon participants. What kind of failure happens almost to everyone?
Yeah, it happened to me as well. And I think there's the failure that you have is that you stick to the plan that you made. And I know I said you should have an idea, and ideas are different than plans. But if you stick to the plan that you made before the hackathon too harshly, either there's the worst thing that can ever happen, and this is the absolute worst, especially if you're going to an in-person hackathon, is you don't submit something. It's the worst. Like, I feel so bad for people who go to a hackathon and don't submit anything at the end of it, because it's just like even if you gave up the first day, it's still like people are doing. No, you know people were doing what you wanted to do right in front of your eyes. That must hurt. So if you stick to your plan too harshly, you might not submit something because something might change. You know, the tool that you thought was going to work the way that it was supposed to work in your plan isn't working, or it doesn't integrate with the other tool that you wanted to work with. So that's and then it gets really discouraging. The least effect that you will have is that you just waste some time. And I'm very much happens to me all the time, where I think it's something, you know, with me, like I'm doing something wrong, or I'm not implementing something right, and I just go back or go to the team. And you want to decrease that waste of time as quickly as possible. So, like I said, I would suggest once you do hit errors that seem like it's not as expected. Like normally hackathons have support teams there, whether they're mentors or people from the product and protocols that are using. So once you hit those road bumps, you should just run to the nearest person that can support you, because it's so easy to get bogged down on these things and realize, oh, you might need to use another tool that's just like, you know, better, or you know it's gonna work, but you're just kind of hooked on, like, I need to compete for this bounty, or I have to do this kind of thing, whatever in your idea, or that's not the original plan. So that's like, again, the least effect is that you just waste an hour or two. Worst thing is definitely not submitting because you committed to some sort of idea or plan that, I mean, at least it's just the plan that didn't execute. You couldn't execute because, you know, for whatever reason. So definitely, don't have a plan, but be ready to throw that plan out.
Be flexible.
Yeah.
Which companies, from your experience, are the best in communication with builders during the hackathons?
During the hackathons, so I'm gonna be biased because these are like tools that I built with. I really like the team from Celo. They do a good job in terms of having maybe like 2 or 3 DevRels almost at an event, which is really great because like you will know that there will be someone available to help with you. I also like the team from Aztec. Although I'm not gonna give too much credit to Aztec because they never have a physical table or booth, so it's kind of like a fun thing to find out where the Aztec team is. Because then, like, once you have a problem, they'll set up somewhere else. And I know they do it because they, you know, the costs around having a full booth at ETHGlobal is trickier or whatever. But so they normally have like some, you know, table, and they just have like a piece of paper that says Aztec on it, which is hacky in itself. So I kind of admire that. But they also are a team that I know when I'm building on their projects, they're gonna have someone there at 2:30 in the morning when I'm lost and confused, and that's super valuable. And obviously, not all teams could do that. Not all teams can send 2 or 3 people. I think Aztec do it well because they probably save some cost on the booth itself. I'm not going to get into the world of hackathon finances, but if you can, definitely, I would recommend teams to have, you know, 2 or 3 people that are both technically able to help or find someone really quickly. I know there's some people that, you know, obviously you want to have, you know, marketing or community members on your booth as well, and they might not necessarily be able to help you with a hackathon, but especially when we get into the later hours when people are building, you should have someone there, and you should have someone there to help you that can help, you know, hackers.
Thank you. And maybe you can share the worst companies in terms of communication, or maybe in terms of documentation, not clear documentation. So did you meet any teams that, I don't know, were bad in communication?
Yeah, I mean, so I call myself your protocol's BFF because I try to be everyone's friend. So I'm not gonna like personally call out any companies because I mean, they might ask me to help them improve one day. So, but I would say the things that are no-goes, or things that are, have hurt me in terms of like completing projects, and that's not on me but on the protocol or the team itself, largely is, you know, if you have known bugs within your toolkits, especially, and you know, I only find out about those things because I have to go to your table, and then you say, yeah, that's a bug that it doesn't work with Google Chrome, for example, which is an insane thing that actually has happened to me at hackathons, right? It's like Chrome is like default,
Yeah.
or Chromium, the browsers itself are like kind of default now. And you're saying that your thing doesn't work with them, and I would never known that until I asked.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big one. Yeah. Also, like if things like you have a toolkit or starter kit and you integrate with other tool sets out there, and the other tool sets upgrade, then you should know that they're the compatibility of those things. Because then if I have to like consistently downgrade another tool set to use yours, that's also something I would probably never find out without asking you. So I would just encourage teams before they go on to, a hackathon is like test out everything. Test out your docs, make sure there's no broken links, make sure you could make a build on your tools kit or your starter kit that you have. And these things will take a day, an hour, in some cases, but it will save collectively the hackathon 20s of hours, I guess, of people spinning wheels and getting lost. So yeah.
What do you think about public speaking skills, marketing skills, design skills? Are they necessary to win the hackathon, or you think that just coding is enough to win the hackathon?
Obviously, it depends on the hackathon and then the presentation. Most hackathons you present, especially in person, you present live to a judge. The online hackathons normally do some type of video or something like that. But in both regards, presentation skills is probably, some people hate like, oh no, it should be about the tech, but I think that's a little ridiculous take, because no one's going to use the tech if you can't present it in any type of way for people to communicate it with. So I would say that's a large chunk of winning the hackathon is being able to present it, but also the product itself. And one of the things I might do a thread on this one day is that you should have some sort of like wow or impressive moment within your demo. And what I mean by that is that the judges should either you should basically I have this meme kind of going around because a lot of people, it's a very typical hackathon project. It's like a splitwise, or like, split the bill or split payments. With crypto. It's like the hello world of hackathon projects.
Yeah.
And there's really no delightful moment in a splitwise. I mean, I guess you could say maybe like, oh, now look, now it shows everyone who owes all the money or something. But there's no you know what I mean? I'll give you an example. There's one demo at Brussels, and I don't remember exactly how all this was working, but basically they took a stable coin, I think it was USDC, and then they made a transfer into I think it was Mexico, or like a bank in Mexico or something like that. And the demo was them actually doing all the things that they did, and then they actually pulled up the account, and the money was in the bank account. And that's like you know what I mean? Like, oh wow, okay. And I think you should strive for that. So from presentation, even if you're not, I think most of the presentations are in English. So even if you're not a native English speaker, that could be a roadblock. But if you have a good presentation itself, letting the product speak, the product speaks product, right? It doesn't speak any particular language or any technology. So I think just letting your product speak, if you are worried about presentation skills, is definitely a good one. I've had demos where I'm like, I definitely lean on presentation. I'm like, oh, this isn't, like, I know the product isn't good, and I didn't get any bounties from that. Like, it was just a really good presentation that I felt good about delivering, and there was good reception because it was a good presentation. But at the end of the day, when the judge then sits around and then compares it to all the other products out there, there's nothing going to be good about it because it itself didn't have a delighting moment. So I think just aiming for that. And in terms of skills, right, I think we should definitely be inviting more and more people who are technical to hackathons, because I think, when we talk about the winning moments, it's probably not going to be just about the code itself. And those people who are good at design, good at marketing, good at storytelling, probably will be the ones who will decide, who wins or not.
What should builders eat or drink to feel good during the hackathon? Do you have any tips or tricks?
I would say eat healthy, but that's just like, it just depends on the hackathon, right? I mean, I rarely go out, but it probably is really nice if you go out one time and have like a food outside of the hackathon itself. I found that really therapeutic. So like, obviously there's free meals in most hackathons where food's provided, but if you can, even if you get a snack, it's just nice to like go out and then see actual people who aren't sitting at a computer for hours. So I highly recommend outside food. In terms of drinking, water, great. Matcha green tea is a hack. That's a cheat code. So it helps. Scientific, this is science, helps with concentration and focus and calmness, which is all great things to have during a hackathon. So I'd highly recommend that. Obviously, a little bit of caffeine intake to get you keep going. So I rotate between water, matcha, and coffee throughout the hackathon.
How critical is hygiene at large hackathons, like at Denver, for example, or in Brussels, you had the big hackathon. So I heard that in Denver, it was like biological disaster. Is it true about Denver? What can be done about this? And maybe you can recommend something to hackathon organizers to manage this?
Yeah. So hygiene is important. Full stop. It's good to feel good, smell good, be good, code good. I would say the hygiene in general, what's tricky is, unfortunately, there is the population of hackathons leans towards one gender or one sex, which is male. And I think in any venue, there's no ability or like stability in terms of like having a large population of one type slam a bathroom for consistently over hours on end. Like I mean, even if you think of like a concert, right? Yeah, that's a concert that lasts a couple hours, and then there's no more, using the bathroom. But this is a hackathon is constant, and I think I've never been in a hackathon where at least one or two of the toilets in the male's restroom broke down. Like they always break down. There's always some issue with that. So I would recommend hackathon organizers to make sure that's built in some type of way. Because I remember at ETH London, for example, there was only like 3 stalls and like 2 of them went down. It was a disaster in that way. But yeah, I mean, generally being kind to your neighbors and having some sort of hygienic plan. I guess it's you know what I mean? When are you going to shower? When are you going to take care of your body? Like I said, hackathons aren't a sport, but there is some physical activity in there. So you're probably going to, sweat or something like that in times. So know that, even though if you're not just sitting on a computer, that, your body's going to get stinky available, at some time. And, hackathon organizers should maybe, give out deodorant and other tools to better that situation, I guess.
Yeah, I saw some toothbrushes and deodorants. Krakow, Krakow at Bucharest and other hackathons, but they were much smaller than in Denver. So I think that toothbrushes don't work in this scale.
Yeah. You could try. You can only try.
So you're the hackathon hero talking to other hackathon heroes in your videos on your YouTube channel. What did you learn from them? So we just discussed like your perspectives and your point of view. So maybe you can share something you learned from your guest.
So hackathon heroes, just to give anyone a background if they haven't seen it, it's basically me interviewing people who have had success at hackathons, which I kind of leave open for definition, but most of them have won something. And it's really just kind of hearing their story, both on how they hack, why they do it, and then we also go deeper into a specific hackathon project to kind of give a little bit more of a backstory, right? I mean, people see the hackathons the projects when they're done, but don't hear the story as how they got made. And I think, kind of basically, I already knew some of it, but got a lot of confirmation is that winning a hackathon can be done in many different ways by many different types of people, whether there are junior developers, just getting started in this space, or people who I've had people on the show that have done 15 hackathons a year kind of thing, and they just pick one project that they liked out of all 15 of them, and even if so, they I think some of the core ideas around taking care of yourself, taking breaks, not again, the flexibility in terms of the projects and stuff like that are all throughout, even if they've, the first hackathon or the 18,000 hackathon. So I think that's very interesting is that, the people who have had success, there's some patterns at least in terms of not just the projects that they build, what they do around the projects or what around the hackathon. And I think that's been kind of nice to see, and also reinforcing my own ideas.
Okay, and the last question, do you plan to participate?
The next one I'm going to do, I think, is ETH Online, ETHGlobal Online. I think that's in a couple of weeks. And then there's actually, I'm going to try to do, this is not going to end well. This might be the last time you see me. There's like an Aptos hackathon as well. And there's like absolutely huge bounties for it. So why not give it a try? I've never done anything on Aptos before. And one of the things I like about hackathons is also trying out new technology, and learning quite quickly on those things, because then you can say you have experience with that because you've at least built something on it. So yeah, either the ETH Online or Aptos, I think they're both coming out around the same time. So I'm going to try to do both. We will see. I'll probably prioritize ETH Online because there's technologies that I'm familiar with, but then the Aptos one looks good as well.
Thank you for your expertise, for your experience, and for this pieces of advice to newbie hackers.
Yeah.
I'll leave your links to social media under this video, so guys, you can follow Dappadan and ask him. Thank you very much again, and see you later.